Morning. Thanks so much, Trudy, and thanks everybody for just being here. I love that there's a meditation before the main share, and just allowed me to just take a breath and connect to my higher power. Good morning. I'm Audrey, grateful, recovered, compulsive overeater, 200-pounder, miracle of this program. And I took some time last night with God, my higher power, my understanding, trying to just to connect in and focus on, what I wanted to share this morning. Um, and I remember people used to introduce themselves in recovery as grateful compulsive overeaters, and I was always baffled why people would be grateful that they had this illness. I believe that I'm grateful that I found that I had this illness, because then I could find the solution to it. Because previous to that, I thought I was just no willpower, that I was somebody that was going to be statistically always overweight, because I've tried so many, all of the weight loss and potions and tricks that I could, and was never able or managed to maintain weight loss. And I've came to believe that apart from the physical part of this recovery, the mental part, the quieting down of my head and my defects and the way I get to live today, is what I wanted to share this morning. So I came into program 4 years ago. I had gone to a couple of face-to-face meetings a couple of years before that, but seeing the 12 steps and 12 traditions on the wall, and it was like, no, this is not for me. I'll find something else. So back out again, and every time the letterbox opened with a new, a new paying way, or a new, trick of how to, have a better life. I was like a magpie, and I was like, this is the one that's going to work. I know it. And I tried it with no success. And I've tried many of them over the years, and life, and I'm a big book, what keeps me well is, studying the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and just substituting alcohol for food, and that's what I needed to do. I was a chronic compulsive overeater and used food all through my life. And I remember as a small child, and I say, so cunning and baffling was I, and so manipulative and deceitful, not because I was a bad child, it was because I had this disease, and I could worm my way in any situation that had food. So, I got to hang out with kids that had better treats than me, and left my key, I'd say to my friends, I left my key at home at lunchtime, so I'd have to go to her house, and just always compulsively overate. I can remember every holiday, every activity, everything I done about where I ate, and doubled my weight when I was 7, and got clothes made by my grandmother, was brought on public transport every week to a dietitian when I was in primary school. And I remember that feeling of trying to just make conversation with my mom, because I was just ridden with that guilt, knowing that there was, that I wasn't after losing weight because I was eating for that week. And when I came into program, and read the book and heard the stories, and the explanation of the disease, um, that it's a spiritual, solution. So nothing human gave me this disease, and nothing human was going to cure it. I needed a rearrangement, I needed a new way of thinking. I needed to set aside all my beliefs and my what I thought was the way life should be. Um, and I shared even this morning on an outreach, I have that bit of control, but I seen it as the helpfulness, which is the sunny side of control, and I was always the helpful person. I was always pick me, I'll do it, through manipulation, absolutely through manipulation and wanting to get what I wanted. And when I came into program, and was brought through the steps, the spiritual tool that was laid at my feet by other people, I could see light in other people's eyes. I could see people partaking in life again. I could see people talking about going on holidays and living, and that's what I was aiming for, because I watched life on the sidelines in disease. I watched everybody else doing things, and then stayed in that self-pity. So by being walked through the steps, with my sponsor until my hand went into the hand of my higher power, which I call God. I'm not religious, but I do have a spiritual connection to a power greater than me. And I was walked gently through those steps, so the understanding that I had this disease, the unmanageable part of life. And I thought I thought my life was unmanageable because of the food. It was unmanageable because I was trying to run it myself, and I needed a God. And, you know, when it says the insanity in step two, the insane things that I do when I'm in the field, the insane things, I'm the parent at the sideline in a cardigan in the depths of winter because I neglect myself. I don't look after myself. Even having a shower, apart from the physical weight that I was carrying, I just didn't, I did not self-care. I didn't self-care. They were the insane things that I done in food, driving to drive-throughs, going home saying that I hadn't eaten, eating again. And I could see other people taking food that was just so simply to them, they'd push it away, or they had enough, and my head would be dancing with the obsession of that food. Um, and then that obsession led me into just not being nice to be around, the restless, irritable discontent that I had. And having to find, the willingness to to find a power greater than me, was just that, and it says in step three, the prayer, relieve me of bondage of self. So I had to be relieved of me and my defects. Um, And each day I have to say that prayer, relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will, not my will, because I'll try and run that show, and it doesn't come off very well, And then when I went through my step 4 and 5, I had to set aside that I was doing this step 4, and the person that I was in disease, not the person that I was as I was evolving in the steps and in recovery. So there was a lovely, gentle moment of being able to not criticize, or, come at that step forward with a harshness. I was able to say, like, this is who I am now in the hands of my higher power. And my sponsor, gently took that from me. And she said, God doesn't keep our step 5s on the fridge. They're gone, and we allow them just to, to share them and to move on. And 6 and 7 were a big part of my recovery, because my defects of character, even though in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it's quite a short chapter, short pages, it's huge for me, because these are how I actually behave, is from my defects, So I have to look at them every day, and I get to work at them, and it's remove all of them, I have to ask God to remove all of them. My biggest defective character is self-seeking. So I will want to tell you every miserable story that happened, so that I will get attention, validation, pity. And, I'm really mindful today of information I share, who I give information to, and my purpose. What's my motive on sharing that? Am I looking to get something back? So I have to, it's like in the step 10, sharing in certain amount of words so that I don't get into the story. And then my step 8 and 9, I had to make a list of all the persons I harmed. And that would probably be anybody that came into contact with me, because I wasn't a very, um, even in manipulation, I was never being honest with who I was, and I had different masks for different people. So, people I worked with got to see a different person, but it's like, what it says, ask those standing at the firing line. So ask my children and my family, and they would be able to tell you the real me, the real Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde when I'm in the disease. And how wonderful it was to go back to those people, to go back to make amends, for the harm that I caused. It was such a relief, And one amends I made was to my children's father, who we separated, before a long time before I came into recovery. And being able to have a loving relationship with him, and not just for my children, but for me, that he is the father of my children. And, getting to go out last night and celebrate my daughter's birthday and have just nothing but love for him. And, that was taken away by working these steps, that I was able to set aside everything from my perspective and just be loving. And then step 10, I work step 10 every day. I am part of a step 10 train. I'm partnered with somebody, but I also need to do step 10s, as the book says, when they crop up, so I have to remove, if it's a fear, and I'm fear based, on my resentment and fear sheets and step 4, my fears are much more higher than my resentments. I'm just fearful, because I have that inner not good enough feeling, so um everybody else is better than me, everybody else has a better life, and how can I strive to that, so I have to work on those fears and ask God to remove them, and I love the prayer when it says, what would God have me be? I used to think, what would God have me do? And I had a list of things that I had to do. Oh, well, I'll do this and I do this. And God is just saying, what would he have me be? And sometimes God just wants me to be present and just be recovered, and just stay in the moment. Um, and step 11 is where I learn more and more each day as I connect. And that can be just God breaths, taking a moment to myself. That could be taking a meditation meeting, it can be just pausing, in the pause, I can get to connect to my higher power. And then the step 12, step 12 is like this, turning up at a meeting, sharing my experience, strength, and hope. But also a big part of my step 12 is self care, so I now invest in myself. I now, I'm getting ready. I'll do every Sunday morning. I go to a sauna, and it's attached to a river, and I go from the sauna into the river, and then I spend time with my sister and her husband, and that's self care for me. Being able to partake in life now, not just watching everybody from the sidelines is what I done in the past, um, and it's no longer about the food, it's no longer about the food. Um, Abstinence for me is the definition. It's refraining from compulsive overeating while, not acting out on compulsive behaviors. And I have a food plan, and my food plan will probably kill somebody else, and somebody else's food plan will probably kill me. So I'm very
Yes, yes,
mindful to keep.
Audrey.
Thank you. I'm very mindful to keep my food plan between me and my higher power. This is a disease, of the mind and body, and it says that I have an allergy. So I have an allergy to certain foods, that when I eat them, I compulsively overeat and want more, and my head starts dancing and dancing until I get that. So I was very mindful. Later on, the more recovery I got was to not get caught up in what anybody else was eating, because what anybody else eats is not my business. And what I eat is not anybody else's business, because it's not um it's not a program, that is, it's theology for me, so I can only focus on me. And I'm just grateful that I get to live today. I get to live today, I get to partake in life. I get to meet fellows. I get to hang out with friends, and I'm taking time to really invest in those relationships that I neglected when I was in disease. Um, and yes, there is times, life is lifey, very, very lifey, and can be up and down. And I just pick up those spiritual tools laid at my feet, and I have to work them. If I was a carpenter, I wouldn't go to work without my toolbox, So I'm say the exact same in recovery. When I leave the house, when I open my eyes, I have to work these steps. And I just wanted to share something, that I love from the big book, and it's from To the Wives. And it says, we realize that we have been giving you much direction and advice. We may have seemed to lecture. It is if this is so, we are sorry. For we ourselves don't always care for people to lecture us. But what we have related to is based upon experience, some of it painful. We have to learn these things the hard way. That is why we are anxious that you understand what you have, that and you avoid these unnecessary difficulties. opportunities. So to you out there who may soon be with us, we say good luck and God bless you.